Much love, many blessings. What's up, guys? This is Lotus. Getting set up now for the water signs, so that means that Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are up. Happy Sunday, many blessings. The day of the crown, so that the day that we're getting ourselves in alignment and seeing how we connect and feeling connected within our purpose in the world that in the environments that we find ourselves in. Hope that you're doing well, especially since I believe the moon is about to be full in Cancer, so there's definitely a lot of emotional energies that are trying to find a space to find a home to express itself out in the world. I'm going to give this live some time to build up, to create that sacred space, create that appreciation, and allow those whose spirits who need to hear this message to find that beacon and to come into this space to seek the clarity that they're looking for. And let this resonate for not just sun water signs, but also placements. And if you're feeling that strong within your moon sign placements or even your rising sign placements, definitely allow this energy to resonate within your energy field. Much love, many blessings. Okay. I actually still needed one more thing to get this going. So I don't know. I find that as I'm getting started for the water season signs, I was kind of looking at the collective or just feeling the energy. Because normally, like, retrogrades don't really bother me as far as channeling messages. I mean, it really just depends on, I guess, how much shit is in my energy field that I'm like dealing with or working on at the time. But retrogrades really don't bother my channeling messages. But I will say that this particular retrograde kind of put some pressure, for lack of a better word, on a lot of the energy within the just intuitive insight and just the message that were coming from spirit. And I was just noticing, I was like, it was just felt very like bogging, so it seemed like it was taking a while to get messages out. Like normally in which I don't necessarily always like to do, which is to bookmark, like kind of to ask spirit the messages and then come back to it depending on how my lifestyle permits me to actually finish these sessions. And I've been noticing more lately that like when I want to channel, I may be able to start, but I don't necessarily get to finish the connection. So just finding those opportunities because I've really been feeling that these messages have been very important for the collective. There's a lot going on with these retrogrades, with the Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde. And it's almost like divine humor because like with the Mercury being like conjunct with Pluto, like it's actually harder for us to clearly define and say the things that we want. And because Mercury is in this conjunction with Pluto, as it relates to our awakening or understanding or awareness, we may be discovering some new aspect of ourselves that is getting us away from some old aspect of ourselves. So it's kind of like we're feeling this drive from the Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde, all these conflicts with the expression of creating what we want in the universe. But then it's like, okay, all this energy saying, hey, you can get what you want, but it's like somebody's got your mouth fucking gagged and you're trying to like, and the universe is trying to discern through like, like you, what is it? And it's like, why is this going on? And that's what a lot of it feels like. So like you have to take your time with some of the choices and the urges that you want, because you can really, really, really want the things that are lingering immediately within your energy field. But I don't want to get too much into, because like with how heavy and how much energy is in this Venus, a lot of the Venus retrograde or the Venus placements with Capricorn, it can be really easy to talk about that, which is why I wanted to talk about the Venus retrograde just on its own thing all itself. But I really want to get into the water signs, so I think it's necessary to actually talk about what do you call it? Let's start with Cancers first, because Cancer is definitely like the fourth sign of the zodiac. So we're definitely dealing with structure, security, and like family values. And for Cancer, there's a lot going on with thinking. When I think I surrender more. And this message from Spirit, especially when I look at my Cancers in the collective, when I think that I surrender more. Thinking is a sign of the ego or the mind. So especially during this Capricorn sun season, for you, Cancer, Capricorn is kind of like a rival or a clashing sign for you. And one of your biggest traits, Cancer, as it relates to the sun energy, is compassion. Compassion is one of the things that you have really just kind of breathing within you. You have compassion for the things that give you comfort, that give you support, that give you that life, that make you feel whole and stable. But things that you can't relate to, you don't necessarily have compassion for. And when the sun Capricorn comes into the fray, Capricorn can be kind of can bring out those not so attractive qualities, that not so light side. It kind of brings out your more darker side when you're faced with Capricorn relationship or just dealing with Capricorn, because Capricorn can be a little blunt or just seemingly intrusive, and that kind of clashes against your Cancerian exoskeleton shell, which only allows things in that should already, you feel, be in there. So when you're being knocked at the door with karmic resistance and that Saturn energy, you may not even be taking the time to even hear it out because it's not comfortable to you. So as it relates to the Capricorn season, as we're in Capricorn sun, Cancer, you've been finding that a lot of the energy that's been coming up during this time, especially with Venus in Capricorn, is touching on things that you thought that you would address within your relationship dynamics, the things that are valuable and particularly sentimental to you. So there's been people that you've been believing their word without necessarily checking the facts or doing additional research. Like, oh, you know what? They said it. I trust them. And then it turned out it's like, oh, damn, they fucking lying, So now you're kind of like scrambling to balance out the validity of the information that's being received to you, which we have Justice coming up again. And Justice came up for a previous spread as well. So Justice is a very strong theme during the Capricorn season. This is also a call to recheck how the energy that you're receiving or utilizing is being observed. And also ask yourself, are you happy with the results that are coming back to you? So when I think I've surrendered more. This is also playing on fears, if I haven't already mentioned that. When we feel like we're about to lose something, or when something's knocking on our door, and there's been things, vibrations and vibrations. There's almost been like someone trying to serve you, like the universe is trying to serve you papers for something that you may not necessarily want to hear, but the universe is trying to get you to confirm that you see this shit. And sometimes the information can't just come as an omen, it can't just come as a sign. You have to be served because the universe needs to confirm that you saw this. Now, whether you act on this knowing or not, that's up to you. When I choose to surrender, I surrender more. But the universe is trying to serve you these papers. It's trying to serve you this information so that you stop denying what it is and stop going more into your ego. It's time for you to rely on the heart, because as you continue to rely on your headspace and to buy into these fears, you're doing more and more constrictions. You're doing more and more gripping of the situation, and it's stifling off the things that are actually important to you that you're afraid to lose. Some of you are very, very important. Some of you are afraid to lose relationships. You feel people shifting in dynamics. You feel your lifestyle circles, people blowing up. and the things that had kept the circle that you were in, for lack of a better word, just comfortable, are starting to expand. The nest is starting to expand, but you're not necessarily expanding with it. But you also don't necessarily want the things that are bringing the comfort to that nest to leave. It's like a mother not wanting her chickens or little chicklees or whatever fuck to fly away, because it still wants that warmth and that comfort and validation of the people that it cherishes. And this is a lot what's going on with you. In some way, you're not necessarily moving, which that can be fine. That can be your choice. If you choose not to move, you may be comfortable where you are. A Cancer, just like a turtle, is comfortable in its shell. It can make its home wherever. And during this Capricorn season, you may be making your home in spaces where it may be time to expand. And not only are you stagnant, you want the people that you care about and the energies around you to be stagnant as well. And the justice is showing that sometimes you can't force a person to be handicapped just to keep you in your comfort and codependency. There's some things that you're going to have to let go during this time. I didn't realize I didn't pull the additional messages. But yeah, there's some things that you're going to have to let go of during this time in order to embrace wisdom and clarity. Your ancestors have been trying to show you this cycle of what you've been doing, and that some of the fears that you're holding on to that you feel that you need for foundation and solidarity are falling away or crumbling because they're outdated. You don't need them anymore. You're supposed to still be getting lighter. It also kind of makes me think I know closer to the end of the month, as we get ready to prepare for the Venus and Aquarius season, a lot of the weights that you're holding about connections and situations that are valuable to you are going to drop off. Not necessarily to say that the connections are going to drop off, but the weight that comes from the connections and the things that you're passionate about will hopefully start to drop off for you, and we'll start to see a new form of surrender and this energy just kind of jumping to the forefront here. But let me focus on Cancer. We have the Knight of Earth. So there's definitely spirit. I feel your spirit and your heart chakra kind of resonating. There's movement, and there's movement that might be a little bit cold or just not necessarily acceptant of allowing cooperation or co-creation where you find yourself. A little bit of paranoia or only relying on your own thoughts within the dynamic. But since this is just flopping out, this is just definitely on the surface. Justice is still here too, so Spirit is also telling me that the energy is seen or just be taken as it is for what it is, and there is no extra considerations. So you may be being faced with what the actions and the energies that you're projecting out, but you're not necessarily receiving considerations or sympathy. Sympathy is the word I'm looking for. You're not receiving sympathies for your energy. It's almost like you're working a job and the energy is coming in. It's kind of like it's $1 for $1 or that'll do pig. It's like, but we have another card popping up. Definitely the Scorpio symbology here. But the King of Cups. And with King of Cups coming up here, and it's also flopping out, I still have not actually pulled a message, but Cancer definitely has a lot of mental work going on. Yeah, much love, many blessings. Yeah, definitely came in at the right time. So with Cancer, like I was saying, with Cancer in the Capricorn season, Capricorn is a clashing sign for Cancer. So the wisdom that's coming during this time may feel like you have to get defensive. And because Cancer, especially with Cancer moon placements, is already a super sensitive sign, with all of the emotional sways and turbulence that's been going on with the Venus in Capricorn and Capricorn placements, and that we're in Mercury as well as the Sun. Capricorn is always that movement, got to start something, got to initiate, got to get it going. So emotionally, there's all this movement on the outside saying, hey, I got to do this, got to do that, this is knocking. But within the Cancer shell, that hard shell where all your comforts are on the inside, it's kind of like, well, I don't want to do that stuff. I don't want to come out of this comfort. I don't want to take care of these things. I'm fine with where things are. King of King of Cups, even though I feel it, I find where I am, but the most that I'm going to do is just find a way to continue to maintain what it is that I'm already doing or already created for myself. So let's just pull these messages here. So we have Ace of Pentacles, the Tower. So definitely in relation to news that you're receiving. It could even be news that you're receiving about yourself. So like I said, we have the Ace of Pentacles. So this is new news or new things that are seeding. Most likely it's something coming back, because Cancer is the sign of reflection in the past. So with Capricorn coming up for you, you may be feeling like you have to reflect on something that makes you not necessarily feel the best about how you represent yourself, which is why we see the Nine of Pentacles and there's an inversion. A lot of times when we have the Nine of Pentacles, that very earthly energy, sometimes we can be returning back to situations that we feel that we're bigger than as a means of comfort. In essence, it's like playing a video game on hard and you get maybe to stage 20 or 30, but while you've gotten that good, you can't beat the game, but you decide instead I'm going to start over or go back to the same playthrough on easy, and it's so much easier to just clean through the situation. Essentially, I'm saying that sometimes we satisfy actions because 9 is a number of almost complete. It's not 10, but it's a lot of work that's been put in. So in a lot of ways, Cancer, you've been doing work, but there's an inversion. But you haven't necessarily been doing work of productivity or to satisfy things that need to be built or done. You've been satisfying emotional work or things to satisfy the mental, to make you feel better about things that you're trying to achieve, which is why we see the Ace of Pentacles as confirmation, because there's things or opportunities or energies that's coming up, but you're not necessarily, when faced with those new opportunities and energies, you're maybe satisfying your emotional needs or your comfort needs, because it's easy to just stay where we are. And I'll say that's confirmation because of the Tower. The Tower is a big deal. There's a lot of energy. Like I said, there's been a lot of energy knocking at your door, but it's been easy to just kind of stay inside when the serving officer comes, because you don't want to deal with that. You don't want to deal with the news. You've already made use of the energy. You already made an account of how you decide you want to use it. And honestly, what happens to a lot of us, just not even just with you, Cancer, but just across the collective, is when we deal with Capricorn energy, we're dealing with the devil archetype. So we're dealing with those things that are tempting to us, those things that make our life easier, that could potentially corrupt us if we don't develop discipline. So this is also a call that when faced with things, with news that is uncomfortable, or with energy or elements that give us the advantage, do we take advantage of the advantage that we've gotten from the energy? So we may have isolated ourselves in our castle, and we're not really listening to anything. We may have isolated ourselves into our exoskeleton shell that you're very good at. That emotional shell can create a very thick layer. I think it's easy for me to talk about the Cancer shell because Scorpios have a shell, so the two signs are very similar emotionally when it wants to put up that emotional armor or that armor within the psyche, so it can seem like everything's all right. And Cancer butts heads, they're the Billy Goats of the zodiac. So you're not necessarily going to like when that sun energy comes knocking on your hard shell. It's like, why are you doing that? It's like, I'm going to pinch down, and I might be pinching down on things that I like. I might be pinching down on things that are valuable to me. I'm not going to let go of this grip. But holding that grip is also holding the perception. And sometimes that perception can be hard to hold because, particularly with this Uranus movement and influence, because Uranus is in Taurus, so that's shaking up foundations, that's shaking up work, that love life, the things that are important to us. So this is another call why it's really important to not necessarily hold on to things. It's not to say we shouldn't fight for things that are important, because you shouldn't let anything that's valuable to you just go off into the effort and just go by the wayside. But what you should be doing is at least asking yourself, with these shifts that are taking place, am I just looking at the fear aspect of it, or am I allowing myself to surrender? Are things being taken away from me because I need to surrender more? Is what I'm holding on to actually conducive for me? I hope that this is actually resonating within your spirit. I'm glad that the messages are actually activating within the spaces that you need and want, especially during this Capricorn season. Definitely having mindfulness for how you want this energy and your actions to be applied within your space, so that you can continue to empower yourself, continue to make those petitions and those prayers of love, those personal prayers for yourself as well as the ones around you. We have a full moon Cancer coming up, so you can already feel all that energy, and you may be feeling that sensitivity, that extra sensitivity during this time. And it's really a good call to ask yourself, like, what it is that you want, what emotional things are coming up that you would like to change or just see be different within your space. To speak those prayers and just ask yourself what it is that you feel that you deserve. Not just feel you deserve, but more importantly, actually are going to go about putting the energy into receiving. Because ultimately, 2022, the main thing that's been coming to me from Spirit is how are we carving a path this time to receive the things that we deserve. So to me, there's a really big focus this year on 2022 being on the heart chakra, because we're asking for things all the time. We're making New Year's resolutions, a new year, new me, all that shit all the time, but that's a cycle. So what are we actually doing differently? Like, we're praying all the time, so that's not the issue. We pray. The issue is, are we praying from a space of the heart? Are we actually doing that work within ourselves to see what it is that we deserve? Because we're being presented with these things that we want, but because we don't necessarily feel that we deserve them, we're kind of like, no, you could send it back, or I'm just going to take this slice instead of the cake. And we're doing that in a lot of situations. We're selling ourselves short. So definitely for you, Cancer, more so, and this is just a message across the board, but for you particularly, Cancer, allow yourself the space to actually get out of your head. Allow yourself to stop thinking so much and allow your heart the room to actually make a different decision. You may be holding a hurt feeling, and you may actually even be justified. Not even saying that the hurt feelings are not exaggerated or aggrandized, but it's time to let some of those hurt feelings go when the hurt is crippling you from moving on. That's not serving nobody. So allow yourself the love to at least deserve to move forward and receive the things that you want. And with that being said, I'm going to actually move on to Scorpio, and actually tap into that, because I know that my water signs, especially my Scorpio water signs, have been waiting a minute for that. Hell, I'm actually kind of interested to see where Spirit's going to have me flow with this energy as well, just from the initial onset of some of the things that kind of came into the awareness. I've been waiting to kind of tap back into this. So, And I'll definitely be posting this on YouTube later. Just kind of like some recaps to kind of clean everything up. Definitely enjoying this Sunday, which is the day of the crown. So it's a really good time to tap in to higher wisdom that we're not necessarily making the most sense of. Sunday is the time and the hours to change relationships, to build new friendships, to build temporal wealth. To put out those prayers of changing your situations, to have turnarounds and alignments with friendships, just all those good things. So this is a time of clarity, a time of understanding or letting go of things that are heavier in weight. The material world is very heavy in weight, so you have to bring that shit with you when you travel. So on the day of the sun or Sunday, it's easier to, like this connection, why was I thinking about all this shit related to this connection? Like, why am I worried about these things associated with the things I care about? When we have money, we're afraid to lose it. When we have love, we're afraid that we'll fall out of love. So we worry about the things that we actually want. So Sunday is a good day to practice the laws of detachment, to detach from the things that we care about. We can use these things, but we don't have to be so obsessed and immersed in them. But let me move on definitely to Scorpio. Scorpio has some very interesting energies. The last season I had actually talked about, which color was that? But it was definitely dealing with like the divine smoke, because for you, Scorpio, there has been a lot of things associated with not necessarily your energy field being seen clearly. It can deal with perception, clout, the people closest to you as far as what they feel that you're doing, what you're accomplishing, the things that you're trying to create as far as the perceptions in the world. So there's been a lot of haziness. I almost feel like there's been a lot of extra work with Hecate or dealing with the crossroads or just in between luminal spaces, because you've been seeking answers. You've also been at a crossroads of sort, whether you've been seeking answers or just dealing with what pathway you want to walk along. There's been a bit of retreating at times, trying to create a way to change the circumstances that you're not able to actually change within your space, and particularly in this Capricorn season for you, Scorpio. Now, one of the things I want to read is the Oracle card that came up, because I do want to elaborate on that some more. We have attack, pain, fear, judgment, and any form of separation are merely calls for help. So attack, pain, fear, judgment, and any form of separation are merely calls for help. What this is channeling, or what Spirit is saying, is that all these uncomfortable things that are going on, all the things that are shaking up within your space. One of the things I will say for you, Scorpio, is it definitely seems like Uranus and some of the things going on with the Pluto's awakening for you is affecting you the most. But it's a little uncomfortable. Like most upgrades or most reboots, the process or the transition of the reboot is not necessarily the most comfortable, but it's happening for you, not to you, and it's happening for your benefit. But you may, during this time, may not be feeling the greatest, or be feeling as if you're being blessed up, just due to the things that are transpiring as you look around you. You may be seeing shifts in your relationships, finances, jobs. Things are not necessarily going the way that you would prefer, or that you saw them going, especially with the energy that you've been putting in. And you may actually be feeling as if there's some type of stagnation or hex, or just people projecting things at you that is kind of taking away from your momentum, and a lot of speed bumps. For you, Scorpio, it's even more surprising, because there are silver linings within your situation, because while a lot of things may be taken away from your peace of mind, you have skill sets that you've been discovering, and things that you've been working on, whether it's your job or just things that you've been finding that you're good at, that have been giving you a new sense of direction and purpose, and been allowing you to take your mind away from the things that have been kind of beating at your door. We have the sun coming up, so the sun is also reflecting on. Now, while the sun doesn't reflect on the past, it does reflect on the past in the sense that it reflects on the things that were left behind, or that the good traits, usually as it relates to the inner child. So the inner child never forgets the promises it made as a child. The only time you forget the promises of the inner child is when you become an adult. But if you tap back into the inner child, you always remember the things that you promised yourself. So the inner child, when the past comes up in the sun, the past is coming up here as it relates to remembering who you were, or the things that gave you drive and passion. And when the light is the dimmest, or the darkness is the strongest for you, it's important to remember the source of light, so that you can remember the source of your gifts, and the source of your calling, and the source of the things that activate you. There are things that you're being separated away from, or taken away from, because you have been saturated with too many things that have not allowed you to step into your calling, and to see who and what you really are and capable of. The sun is also letting you know that your opportunity, that smoke, that red screen, that smoke screen that was obscuring people to who you really were, and making it seem as if you were this dark thing, or just something that was not what is the true story of who you really are, is actually being cast away, and the sun is coming out, or being shown across that situation. For a lot of you Scorpios, you have not been receiving the best PR. But no matter how hard you try, or how much work you put in, you're always cast as this dark thing, so whatever the fuck that's not doing whatever the fuck it's supposed to do. And that aspect is changing. The truth of the situations is coming to light in those matters. I would also say, but just in alignment with just dealing with the hardships, the confusion, finding that light as far as throwing yourself into the work that you're doing. There's also still a balance that's coming from that for you as well, because Scorpio can have a tendency to escape. Pluto is a very far planet away, and Pluto is a planet of the underworld, so it's very easy to find richness in the underworld. There's a lot of truth and minerals in the underworld, because the underworld is not anchored to the physical realm. So in the underworld, there's a richness in the soil. There's a richness of information and energy that's not anchored to the present moment. The present moment is anchored in the present, in this current reality. So when you deal with the underworld, you deal with a sleeping state, or just a non-physical state. So you deal with past, present, and future. You deal with not having to be confined here. So with the state of things, there's a lot of good things going on for you, Scorpio, but it's happening on an energy sense. It's happening in the underworld. It's happening in a place that's not the physical. But because it's so rich for you right now, you're seeing all these good things happen for you that have happened, will happen, and are happening in the underworld, and you're spending more time in that state, whether it's in a sleeping state, daydreaming, or just in a state of lucrative dreaming where you're trying to figure out, how am I supposed to bring this shit and shed light on this and bring this into this reality. And some of you may be getting comfortable in that escapism, but this is a call why the discipline is coming in during this time, especially with the Capricorn sun, because Capricorn is trying to really force you to figure out how to not just keep that in a luminal space or just in a state where it's only in the spiritual or only intangible, but to actually figure out how to take it and make it tangible and to use it as a tool. Capricorn, you're being presented with this urge of this Capricorn energy to figure out how to use this energy in a practical, tangible way. But what's also interesting for you, Scorpio, to keep in mind on the negative side, when Scorpio deals with placements in Capricorn, when Saturn or Scorpio is in Saturn, because Scorpio hyper focuses on things. Scorpio focuses, just hyper focuses on everything. Wherever it turns its lens, it's just to a point, like a sniper, so to speak. So with Capricorn dealing with restrictions and limitations, it also deals with fears and doubts. So Scorpio or Pluto, when dealing or interacting with Saturn, focuses on the fears and doubts or the shortcomings. So with all this sun placement, one of the reasons that Scorpio is having such a hard time during the Capricorn sun season is that Saturn energy is making you focus on the limitations, all the shortcomings, on why this being more cynical. Why isn't this happening? Why don't people like me? Why aren't people buying my shit? Why aren't people supporting me? Why don't people why do I have to push so hard? Why do I have to put so much effort in? Why do I have to use so much force, Capricorn energy, to make a difference? Am I actually going to be able to do this? Is this enough? Is this worth the effort? It makes Scorpio focus on those negative traits of this that are fueled by the Saturn energy. So for you, Scorpio, it's really important that if you've been feeling yourself being negative, especially within your waters, to recognize that Saturn energy may be calling you to be more complacent and to just take up the container, because you're a water sign. You're going to conform to whatever space that you're in. So you may be taking up the shape of these restrictions of the Saturn energy, and you're not even actually pushing against it to see, okay, is this actually what it is, or is this situation as bad as what it actually is, or is there more to it? The sun coming up is asking you to make sure that you're illuminating the situation to see it for what it truly is. Let's give you a good divine message, Scorpio, so that you can tap into this wisdom. All these uncomfortable things, these painful things, these confusing things that are coming to you now are not just happening because you deserve them. We have to drop this self-cherishing state of mind. There's a lot of good things taking place for you. You just have to know what's transpiring and why it's transpiring for you. There's a bigger picture here for you. Allow those things to be a call for help. But remember, most importantly, don't be afraid to ask for help. Capricorn is very afraid to ask for help because it seems vulnerable. So you may be getting high off of that energy during this time and feel as if you can't ask for help. One of the most unfortunate things that I've noticed during this pandemic is how many people act as if they have to play like nothing is going on. It's like watching a movie about an apocalypse, but you got to act like, there aren't zombies running around. You got to act like, you still getting on the gram. You still getting that pape. And it's like, it's an apocalypse. Do the things that happen in the apocalypse. It's a pandemic. There were hardships. People are struggling. People are trying to figure things out. So acknowledge that. The universe can't help you because you're not praying. You're not putting out those things in the situation so that the universe can know that there's an issue. You're acting and playing as if everything is okay because you don't want people to think that you're struggling. Nigga, everybody's struggling. Like, they're just doing a better job of concealing it. So allow the universe to help you. Allow the universe to take the judgments, attacks, and the things that are causing separation that you're being cut off from to heal you and to allow your situations to change for something that is more vibrationally correct for you. The Lovers. Allow the universe. This is jumping out. So allow the mirror. This means you also need to open your heart because you're not receiving the mirror of what you're holding on to. You're too in your head within your ego. Very strong Okay, we have the Empress, Two of Pentacles, needing to make definitely some deep choices. We're going to touch on that. And the Seven of Swords. So there's definitely a sense of not being honest, wanting things, feeling things, but not acting on the sensation. Yeah, let's talk about it. Okay, definitely for you, Scorpio, definitely there's a heaviness within your emotional field, but with the Empress being here, you've been thinking on these things, or we see the number 3, but you've been trying to figure out how best to go about the pleasures of your heart. You may be even submitting to the idea of it. It's almost as if you've gone back into the attic and you come across that box that was sitting right there waiting for you. Not the stuff that you had to dig to kind of like dust off that's deep in the attic, but the stuff that you had waiting right for when you had the opportunity to get back to it, it was right there waiting for you. And you're like, damn, this shit's kind of popping again. Can I really actually make that happen? And yes, you can. You're feeling that. You just simply have to kind of start putting that work. But because there's more feeling or mass or feminine energy kind of sitting at the forefront or sitting in the seat of position, the masculine energy is kind of bowing, waiting for permission to initiate the things that you know that you truly want within your heart, which is confirmed by the Two of Pentacles, because 2 is a number of choice and decision. But Earth is very, Pentacles or coins is very earthly, so there's an intent that you're trying to create, but you don't know for sure if you actually like it or not. You're already being groped, you're already being caressed, you're already being flirted with, you already feel the sensation of the blood rising in the area deep down that you actually want to feel and experience. So the denial is actually not conducive for you, because 7 of Swords, everything's being presented, but you're acting as if that it's actually not what you think it is that's being presented. And because of that, this is a psyching out. You're psyching yourself out, waiting to receive more information to tell you that it's too good to be true. It's time for you to actually allow for something good. But, you know, I can't fault too much, because with Lovers jumping up, this is a spirit confirmation, especially with the inversion, that as it relates to the things that you desire or care about the most, that you've been suffering a lot of pain and hardships. Maybe a little bit of masochism is involved within the things that you've been trying to receive on your heart. And because of that, there's a pause as far as, okay, is this actually healthy for me? Am I going to get hurt as far as what I'm receiving? With this coming up, it's time for you to look at your own actions and decide how this present moment is necessarily different from the things that brought you here to this moment. Is this moment actually the same as what happened in the past where you were met with disappointment? Or is this just in your head? Ultimately, you have to take that pause within yourself and to take that divine breath to actually see, because there's been a lot of waiting and hanging up. If there's any pausing, it should only be the pause to make sure that it's healthy for you, not the pause to psych yourself out from it. Seeing the 7 of Swords here in this dynamic, especially with the Empress, which is suggesting that everything being presented to you during this time is actually to bring you what you want. You're just not seeing it because of how it looks during this time. And one of the reasons that this may be the case is because you have not actually made a decision, so the universe is having to make decisions for you. And you're not liking the choices that are being made, even though the choices are being made on your behalf. It's kind of like you're the last person to pick the slice of cake, and you would have picked the one with the icing on it. But because you didn't pick, you still got a slice, but you got the one that, you know, a corner piece. Or it might have been the one where the icing on the letters was a little fucked up, or it didn't have no sprinkles on it. And you're still getting something, because the universe is not going to leave you hanging. But because you're not actually actively admitting the choice, you're not getting the best of the choices that are being presented. So it's time for you to actually start making choices so that you can still jump in on the energy that is best for you to receive during this time. I hope that this is resonating within your energy field, Scorpio, because there's definitely some deep messages for you. And I know that you, of all people, especially within your heart and within your root chakra, are experiencing activations that you need to honor and have mindfulness about, so that you can receive the things that you want within this reality. Ashe, ashe. Let's move on to Pisces. Pisces got some good things going on. I've been feeling and seeing some good energies shaping up for Pisces. So definitely let's get into it. For Pisces, definitely my last sign of the zodiac. Last but not least, you're in this position because the first and the last is always very similar. So we have new beginnings that come from old endings. So this is definitely a time of rebirth. You moved through Yule. So there were things that died off, and you had to accept things that activated you and maybe allowed your light to shine in a new way. So for you during the Capricorn season, Pisces, you were dealing with, I honor how I want to feel. In a very big way, you've been selling yourself short, kind of just giving in to things that people want you to do, fixing situations, or being on the support of teams that just essentially, it's like I'm a part of the team, so by supporting this relationship or this dynamic, it supports parts of myself that make me feel good. But you haven't necessarily been supporting yourself or honoring what you want to feel on an individual level. So, especially with this Capricorn season, the turnover of the new year was very significant for you. It's hard to necessarily say specifically, but there were a lot of personal goals that were made. The turnover of the new year meant a lot more for you versus other signs in the zodiac. There were a lot of personal things that you wanted to start initiating. Ace of Swords, things that you had awakenings on about yourself and the things that you were putting your energy into, that you realized that you don't have to do. That you don't have to accept. Capricorn is a funny energy for you because it's an earthy sign that gives you a sense of grounding. So when the sun season comes, the Capricorn sun season comes for you, you start to do some inner work, surprisingly. Capricorn season helps you to do inner work as it relates to the body and as it relates to how you feel about what you're doing with your life, not just how you feel as a person with a lot of signs or how you're helping the world around you. With Capricorn, you're trying to find this sense of grounding as far as what you're doing and are the things that you're building on, creating the momentum that you desire. Because Venus in Capricorn, you find yourself revisiting old relationships, but they're old relationships with how you reflect on the decisions that you tend to make where you put yourself second. I kind of want to leave it with that before I kind of start tapping into this a little bit more. It feels as if when I feel the energy surrounding Pisces, you're sitting, I want to say that it almost feels like you're sitting in place, but I'm not talking about movement. I'm really talking about the psyche of your container. And it actually feels different for a change because a lot of times there's really no way to tell where you begin and end. It's almost like watching water spill out of a bottle and it's just kind of on the floor and kind of flowing where it flows. But this time it actually feels like there's some sense of solidarity, like you want to be in a pond or just some type of shape or container that gives you a sense of warmth. It's almost like dare to say that you almost wish you were kind of like a water, the other water signs that kind of got that exoskeleton. You're kind of like borrowing some of that structure for a minute, and you're like, you know what? Let me get these thoughts in alignment. Let me get how I'm handling my situations and perceptions in alignment. Is my body, is the things that I'm doing actually driving me forward in my career and in my relationships? Am I being respected? Because I feel like I look good, but I could look better. Do I match my look? Because I brought myself to this physical point, but I feel like my inner energy is not necessarily reflecting that. Like I'm looking like a model. I might have got my BBL, and all this stuff, but do I still feel like a fat chick on the inside? Do I still have insecurities? Am I still selling myself short or just doing what's necessary to get in the in group? So you're asking yourself a lot of those questions. It's like, okay, with this Capricorn energy, it's like now I got these 10th house vibes, and it's like with the love and the values, how am I presenting myself to receive the things that I want now? Am I actually a good negotiator? Am I making good exchanges? Okay, let's elaborate. So Five of Wands, yeah. There's a lot of heat and feelings going on here. All fire, all wands. I'm gonna allow these messages to come back up. So we got Five of Wands and Three of Wands coming up again. So there's definitely a lot of hotness and action taking place. We also have the Seven of Wands as well. But there's some inversions in there. I want to get into that in just a moment. So let's just touch on this some more because, like I said, we're dealing with I honor how I want to feel. So for you, Pisces, feelings is a very, very big deal for you. You're ruled by Neptune, so your waters are deep. Of all the water signs, all water signs have deep feeling or sensitivities. But for you, Pisces, your waters that relate to your psyches and your west sector are very, very vast, almost infinite. And this is very vast, but the waters are light. Whereas like Scorpio waters are vast, they're dense and deep. Pisces waters are very vast, but they go very far. They may not necessarily be deep, but they're very far and they can go so far they can wash over things. Neptune and that energy can wash over situations emotionally. And it can feel so comfortable that you can get swept up under it. The Neptune's waters can overtake the world. And it's important to know that because what that means is that for you Pisces being ruled by that sign of energy is you're one of the few signs that you can emotionally get caught up in what it is that you're feeling to the point that you believe the shit. So it's really important to have that discernment and that alignment within your energy, especially like when we're dealing with Capricorn, because there can be conflictions as far as what you feel that you're getting. Five of Wands. There's a lot of competing, whether it's competing in the mind and the heart, and not being honest about who's sharing the energy of who gets the benefits. In a lot of ways, you're not getting the full benefits, or you feel as if you're sharing what it is that you truly desire and want. And it's not, at some point, somebody is getting the short end of the stick. And this is happening because with Five of Wands, there's an inversion here. We have Three of Wands, so there's this I feel this sense of impulse. For you, Pisces, a lot of the decisions you've been making is feeling impulsive because you've been feeling like every decision is made with an expiration counter on it. My heart weighs and your heart weighs into the situation. It's like, do I really want this? And the mind is like, what the fuck? Hurry up. If you don't make a decision now, somebody else is going to get it. It's not going to matter if you want it or not. And it's been a lot of those type of decisions that you've been making, Pisces, from your heart, where every time you try to weigh your heart in, is this person healthy for my life? Is this food healthy for my life? Is this project healthy for my life? Your mind is hurrying up and being impulsive. Three of Wands reversed. I just got to jump on the situation. I got to jump on the situation because Five of Wands, if I don't, I'm going to miss out. And the worst choice that you can, what's worse than not making a bad choice is not making a choice at all. So you've been feeling like I have to just hurry up and make a choice because if I don't, I'm not going to have the opportunity to make a choice. And that's confirmed by the Seven of Wands on top of it. Because the energy is already available, but there's not a lot of time to take advantage of the position to use it. Only people can use the energy are the people who are sitting in the most advantageous position, usually the ones on top. So you've been feeling like you always had to stay in the driver's seat. You've always had to keep your mind moving. You always had to keep your thoughts going. But what you haven't been given credit to is how you feel. So that means that you've been too in your head. You've been having thoughts of poverty consciousness, been martyrdom, all the things where you're kind of hyper-conforming. And you can hyper-conform very easily. It's actually almost like breathing for you. So this Capricorn season it's been having you come out of that malleability and that ease of chameleonness within your emotions and within your thinking. And Capricorn is saying, you know what? No, solidarity, structure. Because Capricorn can be very headstrong. It can be very set in its ways. And unless it's shown something, Capricorn is not going to commit to something unless it believes in it across the board. It's not going to partly believe in it and do it. So what this energy, this sun energy is doing for you during this time, Pisces, is trying to get you to not just only be 10% of the vote and then commit to it. Only be partly committed. It wants you to have a majority commitment or a full commitment. Check it mind, body, and spirit. Check with your heart and your soul. Don't just be like, you know what? Well, the mind said it, so let's just do it. It wants you to be fully committed. It's asking you to fully check the investment before you go in. And you have to honor how you feel. It's time for you to honor how you feel. Honor these feelings. Compare these things to the Venus retrograde. With this Venus retrograde, ask yourself how, with the situations and the dynamics and the things that you feel passionately within your heart coming back up, how you're handling it now versus how you handled it in the past. Do you feel the same drive? Is it so uncontrollable? Do you have to just give in to that devil energy, to that impulse? Is it ruling you? Do you have to give in to that impulse? Do you have to give in to that impulse? Because you're fighting with something that's already being shared. It's for the streets. Whatever it is that you want is not solely for you. You have to compete for it. If you like the competition, then it's fine. But if you're ignoring the fact that you're in competition, you're only cheating yourself. And like I said, that Neptune energy makes it easy to believe something else entirely just because you feel strongly about it. You have the ability to believe an illusion stronger than the truth is being presented in your energy field, because that's the gift or curse that's associated with Neptune. Neptune is the planet of spirituality and is also the planet of illusions. So just make sure you're not creating illusions that are not healthy for you, because it's time to take a check and to look at your matters and situations for what they are so that you can receive the best energy for you. All right. Much love, many blessings. I hope that this message has resonated. I really enjoyed doing the water signs for my Cancers, Pisces, and Cancer, Scorpios, and Pisces. I hope that you've been enjoying this message and that this has resonated within your spirit and energy field. Allow this to resonate within your energy field and in spaces and even placements where it's most relevant within your energy field and within your life, so that it can do the work that it needs to do. Don't just take my word. This is just the energy that channels from my spirit. But if it's not activating within your space personally, then it doesn't mean anything. So if this is resonating within your space, definitely allow your mindfulness to apply and take that pause and to apply the pivots and changes within the spaces within your life that are most conducive and beneficial for you. I cannot stress enough how much manifesting energy is on your side right now, but it can be very conflicting with like these Mercury placements in conjunction with Pluto and just these retrogrades that make it hard to actually smoothly channel out that energy. It's kind of like watching like a fucking kite blow on the wind, and the wind is blowing like 40 miles an hour. Yeah, there's wind, but all right, how much focus do you have to keep the kite in the air without tearing and shit like that? And that's kind of what these retrogrades do. It's like you can have what you want, but the winds, the spiritual winds, are blowing really, really, really heavy. And if you're not focused, you're giving into distractions, giving into superfluous indulgences, then that shit's going to crash. It's going to get ripped along the way. I look definitely stay tuned. I look forward to moving on to the Earth signs next, and I'll also be posting highlight recaps on YouTube. So there's still some Venus retrograde talks in the works. Still gonna get that going. And got the podcast still definitely on the way, but it's just definitely so much energy. This Capricorn season has been chock full with so much wisdom and messages from the planetary alignments as well as from the moon. So definitely continue to keep putting that energy to use, riding your blessings and just channeling your energy in a healthy way. If you know any other people that need to definitely hear this message, definitely make sure to share this with somebody else whose spirit is resonating with this, and drop a comment if you've been feeling this energy activating or just doing things within your personal life and space. All in all, it's many blessings. It's been a pleasure. Much love, many blessings, and Ashe.